Welcome to Six in the City, the podcast where 620-somethings talk about shit and some of them live in cities.
I'm Jen.
I'm Lexi.
I'm Nancy.
I'm Elena.
I'm Jane.
And I'm Robin.
Hi everyone, welcome to this week's episode for Six in the City podcast. I'm our host, Nancy, and I'm here joined with Elena, Robin, Lexi, Jen, and Jane. And today's episode will be anything and everything about part-time jobs. So before we dive in, my first question for you guys is, how would you define a part-time job? And I think more so related to that specifically is, would you guys count internships as a part-time job before we dive into the discussion?
I think internships, you're working full time, right?
Not in
Mine were
undergrad.
part-time.
Oh
Yeah.
Right. Like
And some of mine I was paid the same way you would be paid for a part-time job. So
yeah,
Right.
I think they count.
So would an unpaid internship also count for these discussions?
you were working just because they didn't value enough to pay you. That's on them. That's not on you.
That is very true. Very true. Okay, great. So my first question for you guys to kick off our conversation is, what was your first part-time job / internship?
Oh, mine is not that fun. I think my first one was I think I did two around the same time, but one was for Kumon, being like a grader at Kumon, and then the other was proctoring at an SAT tutoring center. But yeah, those are my first. They happened around the same time. So
I hear proctoring makes a lot of money.
Times. It does, and it's pretty fun. It was pretty fun grading the practice SAT tests and just watching, because you know how in SAT the person is okay, time's up, next section and stuff. I did that on the weekends, and it was pretty fun, relaxing menial work. But
Can we share how much we all got paid during these part-time jobs?
I don't remember. This was back in high school.
Yeah.
Probably just minimum wage in
$8.
Yeah, probably around $8.
My first part-time job was as a nail technician for a nail salon. And how most nail technicians get paid is commission-based, so you don't get paid hourly. You get paid by the service. So usually it's 60-40. So you get 60% and then the owner or the salon gets 40%. So it really depends. But there's ups and downs, because there are days if it's busy, like on the weekends, you can technically make more than minimum wage. But then if it's really slow, then you're making way less than minimum wage, which is why we really encourage tipping. So please, PSA, tip your nail technicians and service workers. But yeah, that was how I was paid for my first job. So I didn't have a set salary.
So there's no even like $2 minimum wage, waiters?
No.
Wow,
So some salons might try to recruit people by saying, well, we'll at least give you $900 a week or something like that, right? So I guess you can say that, but because I was part-time, I didn't get that. Usually it's for full-time. So I really was only doing it for part-time, money. So so some salons for their nail techs will be okay, we'll give you $900 a week. But as an insider tip, you actually don't want to go to those salons as a nail tech working full-time, because that means that they don't get enough clients usually. If they have a lot of customers, they'll be easy, you can make way more than that. But if they have to attract you by saying you can make I'll give you $900 a week, then that means that it's going to be difficult for you to make more on top of that. I know that there are nail techs that are making literally $500 a day from the 60%. So
seriously?
Yeah, so it depends, but obviously that's really depending on the cost of the service, because if you work at a nail salon that is charging $100 for a manicure, then you're taking $6 technically. Some might do 70%, some might do 50-50, but you never want to work for a salon that is less than 50-50. But yeah,
my first part-time job, I think it was at a hot springs. It was through a family friend, and it was after junior year of high school, it was like that summer, and I was just there for the summer because like this hot spring was like in the mountains. So I just stayed with our family friend and worked like during the day at the hot springs. And they didn't even like pay me hourly. They were just like, come for the summer and we'll give you like $2,000 or something. And when I was like 17, I was like, wow, $2,000. So yeah, that's what I did. But it was really nice because like that was like their work home and they didn't like live there all the time. Like whenever they like weren't there, I had the keys because they would have me like open. So like after everyone left at like midnight, I would just like go use the hot springs by myself. So it was like super nice. I'd just be like there like chilling in the hot tubs at like midnight by myself. But yeah, it was great.
In a similar vein, my first job, but like not really a job, was definitely illegal because I was under 14, and I'm pretty sure this would have subverted child labor laws, but also it doesn't really matter because they weren't reporting that I worked with them at all anyway. But I was an auction runner. If you've ever been to like a traditional American auction, an auction runner is the person who like takes the item and goes up and down the aisles so everyone can see it. And so I would take like items and I would be, while the auctioneer was like doing that thing they do with their mouth that's really impressive. And I like, when I was a little kid, I was like, I'm going to learn to do that. But now I'm like, no, I don't want to learn to do that. So they would have me run back and forth with the items. And because I was like small, it worked well because I could like get through all the like little aisles and show them the stuff. And I used to do that in the summer and I would make $20 a night for like 6 hours of work. And yeah, it was great because my grandma and my step grandpa worked at this auction place. So I did it because I got to hang out with them. And sometimes I could spend my $20 on items at the auction. So that's how I acquired my weird vintage toys. That was my first job.
That's actually really cool.
I think my first job was as a summer camp counselor. I don't really remember like when I started working though, because the way the camp worked is like I went there as a kid, and as you grow up, you start like transitioning to more like leadership roles. My camp name was Taiga, and it is very dear to my heart. Not Taiga like the rapper though, Taiga like the biome, because I was super into biomes for some reason when I was like 13. No, I don't know. When did I make that name? Probably when I was like 13 or 15.
Wait, Elena.
Yes.
So everyone at summer camp gets like nicknames?
Yeah, that kind of like that's the point. It like makes it more like magical for the kids because they don't feel like they're just like hanging out with like random adults. They feel like they're hanging out like at like a a magical place with like these like people that are like leading them, blah, 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 that kind of thing. Like they can't have their phones. Although
are there any memorable nicknames you remember from summer camp?
I mean, they all had to be pretty family friendly, but my friend's name was Hoodoo. Oh man, I don't even remember some of them. Glitter. Yeah, Glitter was a cool name. I remember that it's weird though, because when I was growing up, I knew all the older counselors by their like camp names. And then once I started working there, like I got to know their real names and I just like couldn't call them by their real names. It was super weird. So even like when we were out in public, like nowhere near the camp, I would like call them by their camp name. So it's just like who they were to me. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I actually got paid a lot. I think I remember making around like $3,500 this summer. Although considering we pretty much worked like 24/7 because we like slept at the camp for a week straight with these kids every single week. Probably was getting underpaid, but yeah, 3,500 was not bad for like, having fun. Really liked it.
Honestly, I think I would want to be a camp counselor now.
Yeah.
Like if my job let me take like a 3-month break and I could be a camp counselor, or if like my firm had like a camp for little kids in the summer, I would 100% volunteer.
That's funny because I like knew I would never want to be a camp counselor. And now that I'm in student affairs, I realize it's exactly res life. and I would never want to work in res life. So props to you for doing camp counseling. But my first job was, I think it was my junior year of high school, but it was the same as Jen's, and it was working as a grading assistant at Kumon, specifically
Kumon.
math. And I specifically remember there was this one kid who was in 7th grade, and I'm a junior in high school, and he would, like, you know how they time it? So you have to write the time at what they start at the very top of the Kumon booklet. Then they go take their seat. He like speeds through it. He was also like 2 levels above 7th grade level. And then he'll like slam his Kumon booklet down on my table. And then if I don't write the time immediately, he'll be like, can you put back 1 minute? And then he'll just like, like shake his foot, like look around the room as I'm grading, because I'm taking forever to grade because this is math I don't even know. I wanted to be the reading writing grading assistant because that's more up my alley, but they were like, no, we need math. So yeah, that was honestly so stressful and I really did not enjoy it, but it was my first job and I got paid minimum wage. So Virginia follows the federal minimum wage, and at the time it was $7.25. So I was getting paid $7.25 at Kumon. That was my first job.
So what about everyone's most recent part-time job? If you want to get into that.
I can go ahead. So I just recently quit my most recent part-time job at a bakery, at a Korean bakery that I worked at on the weekends while working full-time at my firm, like Monday through Friday. Then I worked like Saturday mornings and Sunday mornings at the bakery. That's a lot of fun. I think there's been a lot of changes, especially like minimum wage is now like $13. I'm like, whoa, back in my day. And these kids are just like, yeah, $13 an hour. I'm like, yeah, you don't even understand, whatever. So yeah, it's fun. I also think it's very different, like working now part-time. Like the perspective has definitely changed, like retail specifically, because like when I was younger and like doing like restaurant jobs, I'd be like, oh, okay, like I'll go do that, but I'm like, I'm not gonna do that. Like you go do it. So yeah, I don't know, I think it's fun to take a nice break from corporate.
I think my most recent part-time job was in college. I worked at a jewelry brand, and I worked there starting the spring semester of my junior year, and then I left the year after because I graduated from college, and it was really fun. And it was like a customer service job, so it like helped me grow more confidence in myself. And yeah, it was fun. I would like walk to it like after class and then walk back at night by myself. Super fun.
Yeah, my most recent part-time job was senior year, and it kind of went into after I graduated, but then I had quit like maybe about a month into like graduating because I had started my full-time job. And I really don't know how Jane like recently did
For
both
real.
part-time and full-time because it was just too much for me. So that's why I had quit. But it was working at a chain bridal shop. And it was actually really fun. It was my like the only role I would say that's like clothing retail. And it was like a unique experience because it's like wedding industry, bridals. I got to touch and look at dresses and like get to be a part of people's special day. And we also carry dresses that people would wear as like the mother of the bride or the groom, bridesmaids, or like for prom. So we had like different clientele that would come in, but it was really fun. And I got to like meet new people as well. So it was a fun environment. And I actually suggested to people to try the bridal industry. It's actually not as catty as social media, and not social media, but I guess the media industry make it out to be.
I can say my most recent part-time job I just finished because I was in grad school, so I was working part-time and going to grad school full-time until 3 weeks ago now. And my part-time job was working as a graduate assistant at the university, and I worked in the public service department, and it was very fun. And I did social media, which was very, very fun and something I love to do. So 10 out of 10 would recommend, if you're going to grad school, look for a graduate assistantship, because it's a job that's right on campus, and then it's easy for you to get to. Excuse the COVID times changing that, but it's a job that's very accessible if you're already going to school on campus.
I guess I'm like currently working a part-time job if we're considering internships, because I'm still a grad student. So I just recently started my summer internship, which is as a grad assistant for orientation for a university here in New York. And then just finished a year part-time internship, also as a grad assistant, but for student life, and transitioned into diversity, equity, and inclusion. But like kind of not along those lines, my most recent part-time job would be working at the Writing Center during undergrad, which was, I think, probably one of my favorite part-time jobs I've ever held. Because I learned so much about just like working with people in general. Because when you're working with someone's writing, it's a very vulnerable experience. And I felt like I was having a lot of confidence building, like professional development, personal development based conversations, as opposed to like focusing on grammar or why a comma should be here or citation styles. And I still use a lot of the skills I learned in that position now in my like daily life as well as my professional life. But they also paid really well. I started working there my sophomore year, and they gave the DC minimum wage, which is higher than the federal minimum wage. So I think when I started, it was like $13, maybe $12.50 or something like that, and then it increased each year. So by the end of my senior year, I think I was getting paid $15 or $16 an hour. But yeah.
Oh, I guess if I'm not counting the internship I'm doing right now, my most recent one was working for a law firm. Yeah. There's not much to say. They didn't pay me minimum wage. They paid me like a lot more than that because it's a law firm, which was nice, but it was also a lot of work because it's a law firm.
Cool. So does anyone have like juicy stories or details of like, I guess, horror stories of like their internships, either like interacting with, I guess, customers or clients, or like just like at the internship itself?
Like
If
me
anyone
and
wants to share.
Lexi have a great
Please go ahead.
a great
Lord, we should
experience.
do a whole episode just on that.
Lexi, would you like to explain what we did?
Yeah, I'll give a basic intro and then I'll elaborate. So we worked, we interned, and then I eventually worked at, for way too long, a place in DC that called itself a museum but was also a hotel. And so we both applied to it for different reasons. I was like, "Ooh, a museum," and Elena was like, "Ooh, a hotel." And so we applied to it, and then we were literally living together and didn't even realize. And then we were talking about it, and we're like, we applied for that same thing. So then we get there, and it's totally not what we expect. The boss went by a name that was a single letter. For our purposes, we'll call this person F. So F was the worst boss I ever had. And so I don't know where to start. There's so many layers to this. F would sit in one of the bedrooms in the hotel and watch security cameras of all the employees, and then send them all lowercase emails with critiques about their performance. And this was freaky because my first shifts, like the first shifts I work, were Wednesday nights, and so I was like alone in this hotel, which, oh god, hotel's the wrong way to describe it. It picture a yard sale or your grandma's basement, and that, like, all the shit she would have in there. was in there.
It was like if 12 bed and breakfasts were smushed into one small bed and breakfast. I think that's like the best way to describe it.
Yes. And so my job was to write down the names of all the books. But the fun twist of this museum hotel is everything's for sale. So in the process of writing down the names of all of the books in the place, they would just get sold. And then I'd be back to square one and no one would record what books got sold. So then there was a manager there who I really liked, who was a great person and really made the whole job bearable. He was like my work husband. But he would tell me all these creepy, scary things about the place. There were at least supposedly 70 secret doors in the space. So having someone watch you on security cameras where you know there are secret doors that you have yet to find, that's freaky. So then, yeah, this work husband showed me a lot of weird shit. And honestly, that place is definitely haunted and he agrees with me. And he was from a foreign country where like ghosts are really like part of their culture and they fully believe in ghosts in a way a lot of Americans don't. And so he was like, I feel the bad juju in here. And I believed him. And there were definitely ghosts in there. I was not allowed to pee, even when I was on my period, ladies. So an 8-hour shift without the bathroom or food. No breaks. After the internship asked me to stay on, and I was so amazed. I thought that was like amazing, and I didn't realize it was a bad job. And so I said, yeah, oh my God, I'm so thrilled to stay on. And so then every Saturday and Sunday for my entire sophomore and junior year of college, I guess, I was working. And every time I threatened to leave, they just offered me a little more money. And then they were like, we're going to promote you to manager, which means nothing because you're the only person working at a time. And so of course you're the manager, you're managing your damn self. It was horrible. And I just thought, well, this is a job. This is a job. And that's what a job is. So I guess it was the end of my junior year. I finally got the guts to quit, but not really. Because what I did was I was like, oh, I got an internship at the National Zoo and I didn't want to tell them that. And but I couldn't do both. So I finally was like, I'm going to leave. So I got this internship at the National Zoo and I was like, all right, to F's husband, who was actually a nice person. So F's husband was the one who was like supervising for the day and like making sure I didn't sell anything for the wrong price. So he was there and I was like, this is my last day. Like, for now, I'm taking a break because I need to have this internship at the National Zoo and I'm going to Korea for the summer. I did not tell him I was going to Korea for 2 weeks. I just didn't want him to talk to me for the summer. So I told him I was going to Korea for the summer. And when I came back, I had to do this internship at the National Zoo for school. It was required. And I would get back to them around like, December. And then I just never called them back.
Well, I did not work there as long as Lexi because I just had a full-time internship the following summer and I was just like, I like literally cannot work with you. Yeah. However, I also had many traumatic experiences in my short time with lovely F. This one time I was sitting in sitting in one of the living rooms and I get an all lowercase email from F. And she's like, my son will be there in 15 minutes, like to go over something with you. And I was like, I didn't even know she had a son. Like, who is this man? This man bursts out of a hidden door in this living room. And he's like, hello, I was just coming from my office. I'm here to like talk with you. And I'm like, okay, but like, I thought about it. And I also confirmed this later. Yes, this man also lived across the street. However, his office was in the middle of this house in a windowless room you could only access through a secret door, and that is a secret door he burst out of to meet with me. But yes, that is the end of my story. Thank you.
But honestly,
Oh my
I don't
God.
know how Lexi honestly lasted that long because I had a toxic like internship. It was unpaid internship, and I only lasted 2 weeks. And it like made me want to change my whole career choice. And I don't know if like I ever told you guys this story, but it was the summer going into senior year. And I thought I had like my life figured out. And this was an internship that would have helped like, get a full-time job being in the resume. It was a nonprofit. So it was like really good work and good mission that they were doing. but the workplace was so toxic. I had to drive. It was an unpaid internship. I drove 40 minutes to get there. It was like 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. So completely unpaid, but working like almost like 40 hours a week. Um, I wasn't allowed to have lunch breaks. Like if I was eating, I still had to be working while I was eating. Like I couldn't like if like my supervisor was sitting next to me. So if she like saw that I was like on my phone, like just taking a break while I was eating, she'd be like, "Why aren't you working?" Still an unpaid internship. Like if I went to the bathroom, like I had to like ask for permission, being like, "Hey, can I go to the bathroom now?" My supervisor and the actual like co-founder of the nonprofit and like the director slash president hated each other and would literally like shout and yell like to each other and like be like confrontational and aggressive while I was like in the room and like sitting there. And I couldn't take it. It was only 2 weeks. So I like, this is horrible. Like, I don't suggest you do it, but I like made up a story because I couldn't go back, but I didn't know how to like quit. So I emailed them. This is terrible. I emailed them saying that my uncle got into a serious car accident and he was located in Atlanta. And this was when I was in Florida. So we need to go up to Atlanta, to like help because we're the closest like living relatives to him physically. So I wasn't able to go into the office, for the next few days. So they were like, oh, okay, like no, like hope he's okay and everything. This specific uncle does not exist, just to let you guys know. Like thankfully no one in my family has ever been in that type of accident. Um so so then like a couple of days later she like emailed me and she's like, hey, is he okay, when are you going back to the office? And I was like, I'm still in Atlanta. I'm still in Florida right now, but I'm still in Atlanta, helping, take care of him. Like, we really don't know, like he's still in the hospital. So like again, she like emailed me a couple of days later and then I was like, I'm so sorry, like we have to like move him from Atlanta to Florida and like I can't afford to have an unpaid internship, like I need to work. So like with a paid job, so I have found a paid part-time job to help with the living costs and the hospital bills of this uncle. So that's how I quit. I like couldn't. It's so terrible. I know karma's gonna get back at me one day, but yeah, that's I don't suggest people do it, but it was just so like it was just like so toxic, but I like it gave me so much anxiety to just tell them like I quit. And I don't have, I mean, obviously I don't have this on my resume or anything, and like I knew I was going to burn bridges. But it like made me, I guess like the upside is because it was so terrible, like such a toxic workplace culture, that it made me change my whole like career trajectory. And then like I'm doing what I'm doing now because I want to make sure that workplace culture for people is not similar to that. So I guess that's the silver lining, but it was the worst 2 weeks of my professional career. But it's a testament to how long Lexi and even Elena like lasted, because I didn't even last 2 weeks. I couldn't even confront them. I had to like make up a story and converse only through email. Well, that's it for our episode on part-time jobs. Thank you for listening and be on the lookout for the next one.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Six in the City. You can follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter at sixinthecitypod.
This episode was edited by Elena with music by Gandhira Pratama.